Welcome back to another edition of What's Next? Living Longer, Better, Smarter. This episode is made possible by the Longevity Innovation Summit coming up in December, the 9th and 10th in Washington, D.C. For more information, please visit WashingtonInnovationSummit.com. In this episode, a global challenge to combat dementia. We will tell you about the Longitude Prize on Dementia competition and the finalists. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Mary Furlong. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Fred. I'm so excited to share this with all of our audience. There's such amazing work going on in this field, and I've been privileged to be part of the international judging panel.
That is really wonderful, Mary. Yet another feather in your cap. And with us to help us learn more, we have judging panel chair Dr. John O'Brien, researcher and professor of old age psychiatry at the University of Cambridge. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. O'Brien.
Thanks, Fred and Mary. It's a great pleasure to join you and to be here.
Also with us is another judge, director at the National Innovation Center Aging in the UK, Nic Palmarini. Nic, thank you so much for taking the time as well.
Always a pleasure. So nice to be here with you today. Thank you.
It really is an honor to have you both with us and for me to serve on the judging panel. The big news is that the announcement of the finalists, who will each receive more than $400,000 and be competing for the top prize of more than $1.3 million. Fred, maybe you can go over the list of the 5 finalists to get us started. This really is an international group.
Really is. Thank you, Mary. Hot off the press release. Okay. From the UK, CrossSense Anamorph. High-tech glasses that help users recognize objects and people and remember what to say or do to improve memory recall. From the US, the Aura 360 Clairvoyant Networks. Football pitch sensor technology applied to predict and prevent falls, using technology to establish when falls are likely to happen and ultimately prevent them. From Portugal, Autonomous Associação Fraunhofer Portugal Research. Hope I said that right. A smartwatch-based app to provide guidance on daily routine. It uses AI to remind users of actions they may have forgotten and send alerts when necessary. From the UK, SuperSense Technologies, an at-home monitoring box that protects privacy to help those with early stages of dementia live independently while providing reassurance to family members without the need for cameras or wearables. And from Australia, Memory Aid, the Marks Institute, Western Sydney University. A home assistance device resembling a traditional telephone, imagine that includes a screen for video calls and reminders of daily activities. Congratulations to each of them. Dr. O'Brien, let's go back to the start and explain what the Longitude Prize on Dementia is and how it came about.
Well, thanks, Fred. If we go back to the very beginning, the Longitude Prize has quite a history. So it started actually in 1714 when the British government actually launched a prize to solve one of the great challenges of the day. What was the issue was that ships were not being able to navigate properly because they couldn't find their longitude, and that was causing a number of ships to be lost. And so that explains why the prize is called the Longitude Prize, because the first prize was to someone who could come up with a method of accurately measuring longitude. And to do that, you needed an accurate timekeeper, a watch, so that you could know what the time was on the land. So the first winner of the Longitude Prize was a watchmaker for making an accurate timepiece. If we fast forward 300 years, the Longitude Prize still tackles some of the big challenges of the day. So there's just been a prize awarded to tackle antimicrobial resistance. And in 2022, the board decided that the next Longitude Prize should be another great challenge of our day, which is dementia. So they decided to award a prize to drive the creation of personalized technology-based tools co-created with people with dementia to develop a technology to help them live independently for longer. So I think it's very appropriate that dementia is the challenge that the prize is focused on. As we know, it's a huge and growing problem. 50 million people worldwide, going to rise to 140 million in 25 years. That's quite staggering when you think about it, really. We don't have good treatments for it. And unfortunately, although dementia is not a single disease, it's a group of different conditions. Each condition that causes dementia does cause progressive loss of dependence. And so to produce a technology that helps people live independently for longer would really be a great thing to have.
Wow, that's a fascinating history. And it was so significant and important to see these innovations. Tell us more about how the prize is funded, and a list of semifinalists have already received financial support and recognition, correct?
That's absolutely correct. So, as you say, it's a prize fund, so it's 4.4 million pounds. So that's almost 6 million US dollars. The prize money comes from the UK Alzheimer Society, who's a UK charity, the largest charity in the UK concerned with dementia. And part of the funding comes from Innovate UK, which is an innovation agency, again in the UK, funded by the government. And the prize is actually delivered by Challenge Works. And it's staged funding. So as you said, Mary, the sort of first prize, if you like, is the sort of $1.3 million, £1 million. But that's just the end of the process. Actually, the majority of the funding, 3.4 million, has been for the development of applicants and groups along the way. So initially, 24 awards were selected, so-called semi-finalists, and they received £80,000 each for what was called a design and development phase. And it's from these that the judging panel selected the 5 finalists. And it's important to point out that as well as the financial support, which is clearly important for developing the idea and taking that forwards, the applicants also receive non-financial support. So advice about business development, about technology, maybe about data management that was tailored to their particular needs to enable them to then compete in the finalist phase to get to the 5 finalists that are being announced now.
Nic, give us your perspective on the significance of the prize and your thoughts about the judging process.
Well, I think it's so important because crowdsourcing the innovation that it's out there and giving it a target to achieve, I think it's so relevant. We need this type of initiatives because we need to empower the many amazing inventors out there, the many possibilities technologies gives us, which is something that we still have to explore. We have such an acceleration, and Mary, it's somehow taught us along the past 20 years on what are the acceleration that are happening, and the scale of the acceleration is so fast that requires, I would say, is to keep the pace so that these innovations are not only going certain type of directions, but also can embrace challenges that a vast majority of us could face. Is not necessarily a disease per se. It's a fact of finding ourselves in context where understanding the complexity of all the world becoming increasingly bigger, more complicated. Hence, all those technologies that can help us to understand better about the context, the information, the data, the words themselves, could literally become a game changer for the life of millions, 100 millions of us, I would say. The process of judgment was absolutely interesting because it was literally a journey through I would say, the outstanding research and innovation that are out there. Some of them very embryonic, others very well structured already, which I think tells us a lot. We learned a lot about how many different aspects you could, let me say, explore in developing the innovation. That could be related heavily to the person, could be heavily related to the person that are caregiving other person, which is a sector that we should have to, let me say, empower the more we can in perspective. Something that has to deal with the senses, something that has to deal with the pure interaction, something related to external factor. Music, for example, was one of the many domains that we know could influence the cognitive status of an individual and could be now measured thanks to the evolution of technology. AI, obviously, the buzzword that someone has to say in this call, right? I was the first one. All these type of innovations literally could lead us to, I would say, is enhancing what I think it's a very complicated journey, and John was fantastic in leading us to keep the track, the objective of what we wanted to achieve, because the selecting was not at all easy, because we have to, I would say, evaluate so many dimensions, also with always the idea of developing or sustaining inclusive technologies, and inclusive in the broad sense of the word. And again, that's one of the, I think, most important thing is that this is a prize, yes, funded from UK, but embrace participants from all over the world. Hence, the inclusivity is also given by the different culture approach to the dementia diseases in general, so that it literally could see how different background and cultures could feed the different kind of innovation. And again, that's why the journey for us as a judges has been literally tricky, but absolutely, I would say, is exciting.
I really agree. I mean, you end up with a whole global ecosystem of new relationships as you see the research universities and the other funders. And of course, we follow the investor community too. We're hoping that there's more private investment going into this kind of work. It's really been challenging, and I love that it was we had judges from Australia, from all over, and plans that came in from all over. So John, at the outset, how many entries came in?
Well, it was really great, the response, and I guess that shows some of the advantages of a sort of prize as opposed to some of the more traditional routes of giving money, because I think it does attract people, as you're saying, Mary, from different backgrounds, universities, hospitals, private groups, businesses. So to start with, there were 175 entries from 28 countries, which is really remarkable. And I think that shows not just the draw and attraction of a prize like this, but also attests to the very large number of people and teams with innovative ideas who are working on the great problem that dementia is. So it was a global competition from the beginning, 28 countries and teams applying. And as you've mentioned, the 5 finalists keep it a global competition because they represent 4 countries: USA, UK, Portugal, and Australia. And I think there's another reason why it's important it's a global competition, because I think it really helps remind us that dementia, as I said earlier, is a global problem, and we really need to remember that, and remember that the solutions do and will come from lots of different places. And although there'll be one winner, we shouldn't forget that there's been a lot of innovation that we've seen, moving from the 175 original applications, the 24 semi-finalists and the 5, and there will be other things that these groups take forward that will benefit people with dementia. So it's not just, although the focus is often on the winner and the big prize, actually the process is really important as well.
You know, John and Mary and I interview a lot of people, a lot of startups, and we've been doing this for years. She's been doing it much longer than I. It's heartening to see the types of people who are getting involved here with startups, a lot of young people, and there are all kinds of different motivations. I guess that's what you're seeing too.
Yes, absolutely. But everyone's got the same goal, which is, again, the great thing, because everybody wants something that's going to improve the lives of people with dementia, be innovative, help them live for longer. And that comes from many different areas, many different methodologies. We've seen lots of different types of solution, each of which has its sort of merits and potentially its place, and coming from very different ages and backgrounds. And that's just been the fantastic part of it all, really.
And part of the process has been a lived experience advisory panel. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's right, Fred. This has been absolutely central to the prize from its conception. This prize is about helping people with dementia and their carers and families. And so it's very appropriate that they're involved in individual teams in the kind of co-creation of and testing of the product, But in terms of the judging, there has been a lived experience advisory panel. It's been 12 people who have lived experience of dementia, either because they have cognitive impairment or dementia themselves, or they've been a carer for someone who has. They come from 3 different countries, and they've been working alongside us since the start of the project in terms of evaluating the applications, coming to our committee meetings. They interviewed the semi-finalists and helped us in terms of choosing the 5 finalists, and their input and observations have been absolutely crucial to the decisions that we've made, because we need to make sure that any solutions that go forward from one stage to the next are going to be useful for people with dementia and their families, that they're addressing an important topic, and that they'll be used. And the lived experience panel, and I really would like to pay credit to them. They've been absolutely fantastic, and they will remain involved. Have really put in so much effort and work, and it's been great to have them part of the process.
Nic, I thought that was a really important part of the process. Did you agree?
Yes, I do. And I would like to remark one thing that Fred said before about the fact that we meet so many startups, most of the time made by young entrepreneurs, which I think it's something that we should have to sustain as much as we can. I always used to say that's probably the field of developing innovation for older people and potentially targeting certain kind of disease. It's probably the biggest, most relevant playground to also develop this kind of an intergenerational exchange where a younger generation can understand what is going to happen in their life. And that's so much important that we bring all them together in the discussion. Probably it's where there is the biggest engine of innovation. So if you are able to somehow debunk the idea that if you develop things for older adults, this is something for, let me say, an old world, has all this kind of a patina of all the stereotypes that we can pull out. We can literally prove with this type of initiative how much innovation is out there and how much you can build a backbone of research and innovation in the smartest country in the world, whatever, based on these interactions with the younger generation, designing and taking advantage of the super speed of evolution of the technologies and make it actionable to the life of all of us. I think it's probably one of the best playground in which we can build this intergenerational dialogue that we tend to always say, but this is a practical way on how you can do it, and you see it. It's there. It's happening.
Yes, I thought that was a particular strength of this competition.
I agree.
So let's talk about the process from here and what will go into the selection of the ultimate winner and the top prize. So John, tell us what will take place in 2026.
Right. Well, so the 5 finalists have the money, £300,000, just over $400,000, and the non-financial support will continue over the next 15 months or so to allow them to continue to develop their solutions, and importantly to properly test them with end users, with people with dementia. And so the next phase will be to see how far they've got with that process, to see that they'll have fully working models which have been well tested and have clear business plan for delivery and scalability of the solution, because it's obviously very important that anything that is developed is actually used by people in a wide sense. So as a panel, and obviously our work is not yet done, we'll be convening again in early 2026 when the winners will be announced. We'll be looking for the core of what the prize fund is all about: an innovative technological solution that adapts to the needs of carers, helps them to maintain independence, and can be used by people. And then the winner will be announced, and as we say, we've got that prize fund, and I wish all the finalists the best of luck in developing their solutions over the next 15 months or so.
So terrific. And of course, it gives hope to everyone around the world, because we all age. Nic,
Yeah.
you've been director of the IBM Human-Centric Solutions Center in Paris and headed AI for healthy aging at IBM Research. Share with us your thoughts about the role AI, you brought it up already, about the role AI and technology will play in improving the lives of older adults, especially those with dementia, and improving the lives of caregivers too.
Well, first of all, I'd say that we historically are where we are, also because there's a lot of technology that sometimes we tend to forget, but the computing capacity that we tend not to mention when we talk about AI today. If we have the artificial intelligence that it's running the way it's running today, just also because we've been able to develop machines that are able to manage this amount of data, just to tell what's happening in the background from a broader perspective. Clearly, we have seen it coming. We have seen the power of machine learning techniques that could help us, let me say, decode the complexity of the data that we were able to collect, because we've always been quite good in collecting the data. The point is that what meaning are we giving to this data? And AI, with all the smart techniques that are happening right now, somehow are literally helping us to develop those type of interactions that were not possible before. Causal inference, this is a practice that's behind many of the chain reactions that help us understand things that make us feel good or not. And again, sorry, I go back to example of music. So understanding reactions when you hear certain type of sounds, and then that could generate a feedback on your health status, your mental status, where, let me say, coded before simply by observation, today, thanks to these technologies, could literally help accelerate. So we could see literally a step which I think is crucial at this moment. We've been literally the witness of a change in the world when OpenAI somehow allowed us to see what it was the large language models could allow us to understand. So the semantic also interpretation of data being so important, specifically when we try to understand better how a person with cognitive impairments could interface the world. But I'd say is in the broad sense, we could see how it impacts longevity in general from the so many different perspectives. Acceleration in understanding the impact on biomarkers, as well on speeding up the whole process of drug discovery, are all things that maybe stands in the background that not necessarily in our specific Longitude Prize we have touched, that we know that are empowering a far broader picture on how we can accelerate, which I think is the key word. We need now an acceleration, because we have people there that are looking for solutions. And that's why I think we can now speed up. Obviously, I don't even mention all the caveat, because could be quite obvious. I would say there's a couple of caveats that are related on how we train AI. I think it's so important that now we put a lot of efforts in training AI on, I would say, is cleaner, better data. The old story, garbage in, garbage out, is still there. And then we needed to accelerate the way on how AI is going to process, I would say, is better data. It's important that we collect better data. It's important that we do it also to avoid the bias, because otherwise we keep on producing outcomes from AI that will generate new biases, because again, the machines are learning about what we're suggesting them to learn. And if we're not able to somehow put a foot in the door, probably we could generate some of those feedback that not necessarily are what we're looking for, which leads me to my last point. I think it's important that we start looking what's coming next, and what we define as a curated AI. I think it's going to be probably the true, let me say, blossoming of the AI as we intended it, helping us. So an AI that is working more on the evidence and less on the combination of what we consider as potential evidence. And the evidence have to be validated by us. The process that John described before somehow is a way on how you can create validated content on top of which AI can bring us farther, better dimension. I think it's a journey that we're so happy to be part of, and literally, I guess we should have to be proud that us as humanity have been able to achieve. Now it's on us to make it the more actionable, faster as possible.
Well, this has been an exciting discussion, and our congratulations once again to each of the finalists. John and Nic, we so appreciate you being with us today and continuing to do this important work.
Great to be able to talk to you about the prize today.
Thank you very much.
Lots of reasons for optimism here, I think. Thank you and congratulations to everyone involved. Thanks to our sponsor, the Longevity Innovation Summit. Find more info at washingtoninnovationsummit.com. And thanks to everyone in the audience for spending time with us as well. Remember, you can always find us at maryfurlong.com/podcasts.